Hello, hello. Happy Monday, everybody. It is Monday, February 4th. Is it the 4th? The 5th already. Gosh, time just seems to be going by so quickly already for the 2024 year. Um, Dr. Demia Thomas here, just hopping on just to have some conversation and check in and share some current uh, events and things that I find important for education and just want to share that with you. Um, so today was a beautiful day. It felt like a spring day. I was actually outside at 5:30 and it was still light outside. So that's a great indicator that we are heading into spring. This weather has been absolutely amazing. I don't know where you are, but in Virginia, um, in Richmond, it is quite nice outside, and it feels really good. And then the temperatures drop really low. I guess that's expected. But I hope wherever you are warm and comfortable, and have had an absolutely fantastic day on purpose. So again, my name is Demia Thomas. You will see me moving, like turning my head from side to side, just because I want to make sure I am keeping in touch with any comments that may come in. If you are joining in, please feel free to interact and I will engage. And if you are watching the replay, by all means, share your comments. So today, and the reason why I'm doing this, let me backtrack a little bit, is, as an educator, it's important for us to stay current with things that will impact public education. And so my purpose is to provide information about current issues and practices in public education, and also highlight some evidence of those practices and some data, maybe some historical facts as well. Because it's important that we stay current so that we can either, respond to it in a way where we are doing something to change it or to support it or something. The prevention, just knowledge is power, period. And so just the ability to know as much as possible in the field that we're in is really critical, so that we can participate in the changes as opposed to being, a recipient of it or a victim of the changes, or our students. So today I wanted to talk about, and you may have seen it if you follow me, or if we share the same spaces, you may have seen a post about HR 5894. And so this is specifically about that. But before we get into the House of Representatives proposed bill 5894, I want to give you just a little bit of history of the public school system. So part of my dissertation was around, learning and understanding the public school system and when it was formed, why it was formed. And in the early years, there wasn't any kind of, structure or formation to the public school system. And then about 1700s, schools started forming, but they were very specific to white folks and people who had money and things of that nature. So the poor folks didn't have the money to attend school. And so eventually the government decided, well, we have to do something, right, to create a structure where schools are created so that we can produce adults that would give back to society in a positive and in a productive way. And so, schools were created, called common schools. And in the 1830s, a legislator by the name of Horace Mann began to advocate for the creation of public schools that would be available to all children free of charge, right, and funded by the state. So fast forward, that occurred. However, there were issues naturally, right? Social class division was very clearly evident. And even though it was free for all, there was still some problems with, you know, families of low income who weren't able to attend the schools. It was very divided. And so work was done to, not until after World War II did they actually start focusing on um, addressing the issues of poor students, right? Even though education was open to all. And naturally, we know that Black and Brown families had their separate schools, and that didn't change until much later. So there's a long history of the public education system, and how the idea of it was that the locales, the states, were responsible for education within their state. And so the federal government was to stay out of it, but they also knew that they had to provide funding, right? And so the funding helped schools to run and operate in the way that we know it today. It has gone through several evolutions, I should say, to the point where we are now. And it continues to go through these, evolutions, right? And so there's a long-standing history with the public school system, and how it has been decentralized so that local and state really govern it, and the federal provides outlines for it and funding, right? So I said that to give you a little backdrop on like how the trajectory of the public education system, what it's gone through. And it's still going through, this shifts, it's still going through changes. And one of the major changes that it is going through in this moment, oh my goodness, back in October. Let me show you this. So this is the congress.gov website where you can learn about current bills that are on the table that have been introduced, whether it's been passed, like the different phases that it goes through to become a law, right? And so the House of Representatives proposed a bill that is on the table and has been amended in November 2023 to Lord have mercy. It's going to have devastating effects on schools. Devastating effects on schools. And this is not information like you may get this information on a news blast if you watch CNN, or something, you may get it. But if you're not actively looking for this information, you won't know, right? And so this is the bill, this is the website, right? Congress.gov. And it is, it provides you all of the information, the actual proposal that's on the table. It gives you all of the actions with the proposal, any of the amendments, and all 86 of these amendments occurred on November 14th, right? When I looked through the amendments, there weren't many that had to do with the United States Department of Education. I got distracted because my dog is over there doing something you probably should not be doing. They always do that when you get busy, just like children. Anyway, so here's what it looks like. I just wanted to show you the website where you can go to and see for yourself. The thing that I really wanted to show you is that there has been a letter from the White House in response to HR 5894, right? So it is a long document. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You will go through it and see for yourself because it encompasses the Department of Labor, Health and Human Services, and Education, and other agencies, right? So it's very, very long. But what I do want to show you is the letter from the White House in response to HR 5894, which is on the table. Okay. So, in regard to one thing that I wanted to highlight here is that if it's presented, because there is a process, right now, let me go back so you can take a look and see. It is introduced. It has to be passed by the House, passed by the Senate, then it goes to the president, and then it becomes law. This letter from the White House is clearly saying that the president will veto the way it is written right now, that it needs major amendments. Okay. The biggest piece in the education department, I'm not talking about all of the other departments, right? The labor, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking specifically about the Department of Education in the United States. Okay. They are proposing to cut billions of dollars to our lowest and most needy population. Let me say that again, because I need it to sink in. Billions of dollars across the United States is on the line right now to be cut. Thankfully, this letter is indicating that the bill 5894 will be vetoed if it stays the way it is. But just think for a second, like the idea that the people we elected into office came up with this bill, mostly Republicans, and I'm not going to get into bipartisan stuff. I'm not a politician. But the people we elected in office created this bill and is cutting access at the hip for the most marginalized populations in our country. That is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, right? And so I'm sharing this with you so that you can, one, be aware that this is still on the table, right? And it's supposed to be voted on, I believe, in September 2024. But there are clearly more amendments that need to happen here. So let me just give you an example of some of the proposed acts in this bill, like the proposed moves, okay? $8.7 billion in the Title I program. So for folks who are not in education, the Title I program is specifically geared for, provides funds to low income, like a concentration of poverty in schools, right? And how they measure that is different ways. It used to be your farms rate and things like that, but the most needy students get money now, and they're proposing to cut that by $6 billion. Well, actually more than that. It's $8.7 billion cut from Title I, but an additional reduction to a program as well, to the program, would cut it even more. So they're going to strip funds from the most needy schools. How is that even, like, it's becoming, it feels like it's becoming the gap is getting wider and wider and wider. The idea that, you know, people would say, let's cut from the most needy children and put this money someplace else, just baffles me, right? Like as an educator, in my heart and soul, it completely baffles me. And so I want to share that with you so that you have an understanding of like what this means, right? They're also planning to cut $1.7 billion in Title II funds. Now, Title II funding supports professional learning and for teachers and for school leaders, and school leaders and teachers need professional learning. They need access to that, okay? Conferences and people that I've been talking to in various places within the education field are struggling right now because there's like the learning curve seems to be getting stronger. And so professional professional development is critical for our school leaders and our teachers. Everyone that's in the building needs professional learning. If you're working with kids, you need professional learning. So the idea that this can potentially be cut is absolutely devastating. Okay? So that's Title I and Title II. Okay? I'm going to let that sink in for a second so that you can let that marinate just a little bit, because that is speaking loads to what the people we've elected into office think and feel about people that don't look or sound like them or don't have the same access that they do, right? Because this is about access, okay? The other part that's really devastating, right? When we think about college, going to college, I could have never gone to college if I didn't have student aid. Just like many people, right? I grew up in a low income household. There was no way I couldn't go to school without student aid. And so they want to cut 265 million in student aid. How are people who can't afford to go to school able to go to school? Right? So that would be absolutely, again, the gap getting wider and wider. It is not, it's unacceptable. There's no other word that I can find for it. Well, there are a couple, but I'm gonna keep it nice. Okay. So there's also another, I want to skip down to the college here, the federal work study program. In college, I had federal work study, just like a lot of people I know. They want to cut that. They want to cut funding and eliminate the federal work study program, which provides money for kids while they're in school to take care of the things that they need to take care of, buy textbooks, eat food, just survive. They want to cut that. Over 370 students right now, 370,000 students right now receive the federal work study or participate in the federal work study program. I was one of those kids, right? I'm sure some of you listening to this were some of those kids. What are those kids going to do? So if they cut funding for financial aid and they cut the federal work study program, that's going to eliminate a huge population of students that won't be able to go to college. What is that saying? Like, this just baffles me. It blows my mind, the level of just the lack of care and concern just for folks who are struggling the most. It's a complete slap in the face to me, okay? And so this is some data that I wanted to share with you so that you can understand what this means. Now, here's a bit of information I want to share with you so that you know what to do and the impact that it can have in your state. So let me show you something. And for example, if you look here at the Title I program, the $6 million reduction to Title I, it would cut the program by 80%, right? Which results in a loss of up to 226,000 teachers, aides, and other key staff. That would jeopardize the education of 26 million students. Just the fact that it would jeopardize 26 million students lets you know that that there is a huge percentage of students that are living below the poverty line that benefit from the Title I funds. Unacceptable, y'all. Okay, so this is a letter from the White House to the House, to let Congress know that as it stands right now, they are going to deny, reject this bill. Thank goodness for that. But let me show you something. This is what it means for specific states, right? Like the devastating impact on hardworking families in Virginia. So the slash of funding for schools with low income students, right? The 80% cut to Title I funding would impact 334,000 students in schools that teach low income students by forcing a reduction of up to 4,300 teachers, aides, and other key staff, right? There's also cuts to eliminate preschool. That would impact 820 children in Virginia. Let's look at New York. If this bill was to go through, the Title I funding would impact 1,535,500 students in schools that teach low-income students, and reducing up to 18,500 teachers, aides, and other key staff. Yeah. Let's try another state. Let's look at North Carolina and see how, if this bill, HR 5894, was to pass, how that would impact them. So in the state of North Carolina, it would impact 766,400 students with a reduction of 6,300 teachers, aides, and other key staff. How is this even something that is acceptable? I'm going to pick another state. Drop a state in the chat and let's see how it would impact that state. But I think you're getting the idea. I just want to see. Hey, Tuggle Lewis. Yeah, you're going to definitely do some research. Does it include anything about special education? It did. It did. So when you go to, all right, let's look at Maryland. It did. Let's see. Maryland. Let's see how it would impact Maryland. According to this proposed bill, it would impact 221,200 students and reduce up to 4,700 teachers, aides, and other key staff. And this is only in like the lowest income, most needed schools. So you're essentially taking away when you need to be giving more. Make it make sense. It doesn't add up. Now we can go into another, talk about this in another way, like what this really means, right? Like we know that there's a history of, racism and social, the whole division of social class and all of this, a whole nasty history that would explain why these things are happening the way they are. Because as a human being, it would just seem like it would be the right thing to do to help the most marginalized people. There's nothing more important than helping and grooming our next generation of leaders. And if you're taking away from that, so what are you saying? Are you saying that our most marginalized students and low-income communities don't deserve to be groomed in the way as their counterparts who have more advantages and more access do? Like, the message is clear. The writing is on the wall so clearly. And I'm going to keep bringing this up. And every time I'm going to keep tracking it. And every time there's another amendment, I'm going to share anything that's going to impact education and put it and share it with you all, because we have to do something. What you can do right now is send a letter to your House of Representatives in your state. Find out who are the people representing you in the House of Representatives. Okay? Send them an email. Tell them that you are against HR 5894. Please. What I will do is in the comments below this live, I will put the link for this tab here so that if you feel inclined to look at it, read it, look through it. It is pretty long, remember, because it is not just education, it is the Department of Labor and Health and Human Services and other agencies as well. And it's very interesting when you look at it. Well, it is for me because it even has people's salaries in here and the reduction of salaries and very interesting stuff. But what I will do is put the link in the comments so that you can actually stay abreast of this. And surprisingly, there's actually an app that you can download on your phone and look up HR 5894 and set it so that anytime there are any updates, it'll notify you. But the thing to do right now is contact your House of Representatives, contact your legislation. Let them know that you are aware of what's on the table with HR 5894 and you are opposed to the cuts in public education. Absolutely ridiculous. The writing is on the wall, y'all, and we have to stick together to make sure that this bill does not pass. You see where it is now. It's been introduced. They already had amendments in November, and it hasn't passed. It hasn't gone through any of these phases yet. Thank goodness. And I'm so glad that the White House already jumped in and said, like, listen, before y'all even bring it to me, I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a no, a flat out no. And that's exactly what that letter said from the White House, which I appreciate so much. So please, 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 if you can, contact your legislation in your state. Find out who your house, like who the people that sit in the House of Representatives and even your senators, right? Like send them an email. HR 5894, thumbs down. Like we're not going to do that. So please share your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the bill that's on the table, and share some of your share your thoughts. What do you think about it? Like, do you think it is there's another message in this act of even proposing this bill? And if it is, what do you think those messages are? What do you think our elected officials are saying about our most marginalized students and the adults who support and teach and groom our babies, right? Like, because they want to cut Title II funding, which directly impacts professional learning for the adults that are dealing with our kids. So share your thoughts, drop some things in the chat. Yes, we have to let our voices be heard, that this is absolutely unacceptable. I agree with you 100%, Toga Lewis. If you work in education, I charge you with this. Go back to your schools. Yes, public education is at risk. Yes, absolutely. It's like absolutely. It's really, really scary. It is so frightening. And when you think about, Toga Lewis, like think about the schools that we've worked in. Like if Title I funding and Title II funding didn't exist, imagine what those schools would be like, and to work in those schools. I couldn't even imagine, because it's hard already. Like it is so difficult for so many reasons. And our kids deserve the best, right? They deserve access to any and everything everybody else does, right? And in some instances, they deserve it, more because they don't have it, right? They're supposed to have access to things that other people don't. And if we cut funding, billions of dollars of funding in Title I and Title II, that is going to have absolutely devastating effects on schools. So please, oh please, oh please, if you work in a school, Go back and share it with your colleagues about HR 5894. Even if you all put your names in an email to send it to your senators and your House of Representatives and all of your legislators, right? Tell them no. As it relates to the Department of Education, we absolutely, please do not let this pass. Okay? And you can even tell stories, because while they're in chambers, they do talk about, stories. If someone sends an email and has a story that like how something like this would impact, like if you want to tell a story about how this can impact your work, please go ahead and do so. But make sure I'm charging you with two things. One, share this with your colleagues, right? And two, contact your legislators and tell them, hell no, we are not accepting this. Okay. I mean, thank goodness a letter from the White House says that, but they need to hear our voices as constituents. So please find out who they are and let's put a big no to this. And I'll keep you updated, or also drop the link to this in the comments below. But share your comments. I would really love to keep the conversation going and hear what you think. And again, I will provide updates because I'm following this on my app on my phone because this is really, really critical. And we just can't have this happen. Okay. And so I thank you so much for taking the time to sit in and listen to me share this information with you. I hope it has been helpful and eye-opening in some way. And I hope that it's actually lit a fire in you so that you can actually be like, oh yeah, no, we're not having that. So I'm hoping that this information has like reignited some fire that will have you go back and actually stand in support of what the White House has said, and also communicating with your legislators that we will not accept this. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. If you are not here and you're watching the replay, please share your thoughts and let me know what you think. And I will see you next Monday. I'll have something else to share, some other piece of data and information that can help you on your education journey as a leader, as a teacher, in any way, shape, or form. Have a fantastic Monday, everybody. I appreciate you too, Tugga Lewis. Bye.